Hey, beautiful souls. I'm Colleen, and this is the Hair Healer Podcast. On my show, my guests and I untangle our web of relationships as children, partners, employees, parents, and strip away the labels that define our identity. On each episode, my guests and I open our souls and start a dialogue in order to span this gap, create a spiritual bond, and cultivate deep interpersonal connections. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Hair Healer Podcast. This is exciting. So as you guys know, I recorded the beginning of season 2 back in the fall, and this is my first episode for season 2, recording here in 2021. So it's going to be a really good episode. I just want to remind everyone, please go and like the Hair Healer Facebook page, and also follow me on Instagram, the Hair Healer 1111, and make sure you subscribe and send this to someone and rate and review. Okay, so let me jump into this episode because right now we are back in person in 2021, and I have someone, I'm excited about this guest. So his name is Shane, and I met Shane. I guess I should say I watched Shane grow up. I was best friends with his sister. And before he came here, I was thinking of like the different phases of Shane. I think when I first got introduced to Shane, he was like 15 or 16 playing baseball. You were going to go to West Virginia University on a scholarship or something, maybe for baseball.
I had a whole bunch of things lined up for me at that time.
You had a whole bunch. And then like a couple years went by. And then there was Shane who dropped out of school and then was like partying into drugs.
Oh yeah. I was deep into drugs, and I was living the party life. I didn't have really a sense of responsibility, but everything leads up to a certain point in your life where you can look back on it and, everything's a learning lesson. So
yes, so I'm just fixing the mic. There, put that right there. Everything is a learning lesson. And I remember your sister would show me on Snapchat. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe like that's your brother. And then a few more years, right here, I hear about, we're going to talk about that, his life near death experience. And he sort of had a really bad rock bottom, like often, right? Drugs lead us to our very end. So that start there. The last thing I heard about you were in the hospital and pretty much dead.
Yeah, so basically, like you were saying, I was on drugs for a while and kind of losing my sense of passion. Where do I go? Who do I turn to? So what do I turn to? I turn to drugs, of course. It's an easy way out. So for a while, masking my feelings, thinking that I'm solving things that really weren't in my best interest. And, soon enough, after a while, I ended up having a near-death experience. I overdosed. I ended up getting, it's called severe compartment syndrome, which is, it happened in the right side of my leg. A bunch of blood that was built up in my leg didn't really have a place to flow. So they had to perform an operation where basically they can release all the fluid. So with that being said, I was in a coma. I had my fair, battles. And I think really what topped this all off was when I came out of the hospital, there was a big disconnect, and my mind, like I needed clarity. I needed to know if there was a higher being, if there was something out there, that really has everybody's best interest. Because for a while, we were kind of living almost like a lost puppy. I mean, I felt like I was living like a lost puppy. I never had anything. I never had a connection. So with that being said, I went into this period of loneliness, and I came across conspiracy theories. And now I'm not really a big advocate of conspiracy theories because it's never endless. It'll never.
I know.
So the more I started to become into that, I learned some things about meditation, but nothing was clicking yet. So I go into I go and I eat dinner. I come back into my room. I lay down and I close my eyes, and I don't know what happens, but I come out of my body and I'm having this outer body experience.
Now, how far from when you overdosed was this?
I was in the hospital for about 3 months.
Wow.
I came out.
3 months?
3 months. Yeah.
Were you in like rehabilitation?
Yeah. So for 2 months, I was in, the regular ICC unit. And then from there,
and what was the most severe damages? Was the syndrome, the leg?
There was a bunch. I found out I had a hole in my heart. I lost hearing in both my ears, so I have constant ringing. There was a bunch of muscles, tendons that they had to cut out of my leg, so my foot doesn't function right. It's called a drop foot. So basically, I have a little bit of movement where I can push down, but I can't pull my foot up. So all the muscles are weak. My toes started to curl. I mean, right now I'm dealing with pain in my, in my legs as well as my knees. So it's a constant battle, but it's making me stronger. But with that being said, I go get food, go back into my room, I close my eyes, and I get sent into this orbit. I don't know where I'm at, but I'm talking to this big bright light, and it's very warming. It's very fuzzy, very energetic, and
it felt good, warm, like the light.
It felt warm. It felt like I never wanted to leave, and it was so real, but it was so unreal because it's an experience that I have never. I mean, it's almost like I was stuck in a DMT trip.
Oh, wow.
And I've taken DMT, but I just know that our brain, releases DMT, and that's what causes dreams and things of that nature. So with that being said, I go into this bliss, and I'm talking to this warm, loving light, and it's describing heaven and hell, why I'm here, my purpose, and things that just are completely.
Why did they say your purpose? What did they? Do you remember?
Yeah, because for my purpose is still being revealed to me little by little. Because I think if everything was thrown at me at once, it would be very hard to make those steps. Because, like I said, everything's a learning experience. So when one bad things ends, and next, when one door closes, another door opens. So this is going on, this conversation, for about 10 or 15 minutes, and I started to get a really bad headache, and I said, whoever I'm talking to, if this is real, get rid of my headache, and I will believe this. I will believe you. And I counted to 5, and as soon as I hit 5, there was a electromagnetic pulse that went from the top of my head down to my feet, and I shot up out of my bed, and the headache went completely away. It was
wow.
So right from there, I started. I mean, you can only believe if you experience something like that. All these feelings are coming in. Rush of emotions. And
were you scared? Like, were you like, what is happening to me?
I was scared. I thought, I didn't know what to think, because it was so unreal. It was so unrealistic at that moment. But it gets even worse than that. So
say it, love it.
After this experience, it felt like someone was doing outside surgery on the center of my stomach, like right in my sternum. And it felt like something was being pulled away from me. And after that, I went into severe anxiety, shaking, screaming. I mean, I was coming out of my body. I had like a severe download of like how important the pineal gland is, meditation, how the government maybe not for us, and just so many different things that were happening. At one point, I thought I was Jesus Christ. I stood up and said, "Mom, I had to die for your sins." And I'm not whole big about the sins, but at that time, that's what I really thought, because that's how I was brought up.
Yeah.
But this was like a 4-hour experience, and then after that, I went to bed. I woke up the next day at like 5 or 6 in the afternoon. And after that, my outlook on life and who I was gone. Like everything I used to fear, everything I used to, worry about was no longer a part of my life. It was like every shadow, everything that haunted me from the past was finally uplifted and it was gone. And this energy, this tiger that has been building inside of me is so pure love, and it's so warm to be around, that like I just feel like I need to be giving this to everybody, because there's no better gift than helping the next person. And a lot of times, we always think that money is the root of all happiness. Money is where, things are going to be, money's where we find happiness. And this is where everybody's always going to end up, in this money mindset, atmosphere, which is, that's the wrong way to look at it. If we stop looking at the money problems and stop, can we cut this?
Yeah.
I hope you can cut this.
Yeah, I can cut it. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
We can keep talking and then go back. Yeah, let me write it down. Keep talking.
All right. So
did I distract you when I started to
No. I just, for some reason, I had a blockage right there. So like I said, money being the root of all happiness. And, after this experience, I had this enlightenment, and it was no longer my fears and my worries about fear, anxiety, money. Where am I going to be? My future? What does it entail? It was no longer any of that. It was, what do I have to do to make myself feel better? And what do I have to do to become more in the present moment? And with TikTok being around and all these different social media things, a lot of people say that these extraterrestrials and these different entities have access to this. So as I went through my spiritual awakening, I started to see these videos about spiritual awakening and meditation and the next steps of what we can do to get there. And everything just started to unfold. Like I no longer had to search for a truth. Everything was just coming to me, which was the greatest thing. And I came across this guy, Dr. Joe Dispenza.
Love Dr. Joe.
Oh my gosh, this dude, he changed my whole outlook on the way I think, the way I act, the way I talk, dealing with my feelings, dealing with my emotions, how powerful your thoughts can be. When you're coming from a place of nothing but love and peacefulness, the impact that you have on the universe and the people around you is so dramatic. It's like a magnet. It just attracts you. So, when people are going through these spiritual awakenings, they have constant battles of what's real, what's not real. Is this fake?
Yeah.
Is this not fake? But we need to come to a realization that this is no longer becoming a belief system. This is coming from a sense of knowing. So I'm learning to trust my intuition and learning to trust these new feelings that I have never been exposed to, because when you are divinely attached to this, to this creator, to whatever is out there, miracles, things start to happen. And it's a sense of joy. It's a sense of relief. There's no longer a worry, like I said, about money. What is next in my future? Am I ever going to have friends? Am I ever going to be married? Am I ever going to have a kid? It's no longer like that. It's more of like, okay, I need to stop focusing on what other people think about me and what other people say, and focus on how I truly feel about myself. How do I perceive myself to this world? Because for a while, I was getting so sucked into what people think about me all the time, but not realizing everybody is more concerned about themselves than they are of you. So it's this whole time, it's a constant battle. Like, why? There's no point to it. So it's just the spiritual awakening is a never-ending journey, which I'm starting to come to realizations with, but it's
Now, would you say that your drug addiction, right? Like, how is that, right? Did that stop? Do you feel like you were...
I'm going to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So my whole drug addiction came from an ex that I had, an ex relationship that I used to be a part of. And it never really made sense to me. And I'm like...
Were you guys using buddies?
No, we weren't using buddies. She was the complete opposite of, who I was. But the more we connected on a spiritual way, and there's something that's always been about me that I knew was something spiritual, but I wasn't necessarily attached to it because I didn't know it existed. So we had this bond that was real, and I'm sure many people, when they first fall in love, they know what that feeling is, and we just think it's your first love, whatever.
Yeah.
But when I did some things that weren't the best in the relationship, which is why the relationship turned out the way it did. And I own up to it to this day. And hey, I'm a man. I own up to it. But I realized that, hey, that's not how you treat somebody. And when I had my heart broken, that's when things started to, really hit me hard. I was done high school. The love of my life was in high school. She was going somewhere. She had a future. I didn't at the time. I didn't want to go to college. I hated authority. I didn't like being told when to come to class.
Yeah.
I didn't like any of that. And that's why, we are all energetic beings.
Yes.
And what does a drug have in it? It has a type of energy, whether it's a down or an upper, it alters your mood. And since we are energetic beings, we get addicted to these certain energies, which is why a lot of times it's hard to get off.
Yeah. And I think too, with drug addiction, I know with myself or seeing people throughout the years, like when you're at your drugs, you're at your lowest vibration and you're opening yourself to other entities of that same vibration. I think people get haunted, their souls get taken over, and that's why they get stuck in this repetitive cycle.
Exactly. And it could become a nightmare. And yeah, I have a lot of things that, especially with mental illness, ADHD, ADD, and
is that you? Are you team ADHD?
I definitely had these different, I'm definitely people. I guarantee if I talked to a therapist, they would consider me a schizophrenic. But
you mean since your spiritual awakening?
Yes, since my spiritual awakening. But what I think a lot of, modern medicine, I'm not going against it because, like I said, I'm not fully, I don't have all the knowledge as far as that, so I'm not going to talk about that. But, I think it comes down to a spiritual thing. There's a spiritual energy that is happening that science is, trying to prove, and it's very hard to prove. But there is definitely something that is going on, or that happened in 2020 as far as this 2020 awakening. Everybody, I can't tell you. I had my awakening 6 months ago, and I first started to see it become a trend. And I was like, man, this can't be real. Like, these people are just talking.
Yeah.
This can't be real. Nobody can experience, because what I had was so real. And it didn't feel like everybody was going through this. So
I know. Did that distract you? I don't even know what that was. There's always, if you listen to my podcast, there's always something, either the cat jumps on or this comes on. I know that distracted you.
So what I was saying is, I came across this woman and I love her. Her name is Dolores Cannon. And there's 3 waves of volunteers who are coming in.
Yeah, can you talk about this, because I don't know that much about but people talk about that.
So I don't have all my facts. I don't have it all written down. I should have it in my head, but I live a chaotic life and my head's all over the place.
Same.
So
just give us the cliff notes.
There was 3 waves of volunteers, and the first wave came after the atomic bomb, because the atomic bomb was so deadly and so nuclear. It basically sent a pulse of I think it was a pulse or vibration, a type of frequency that went out into the universe that basically got every single extraterrestrial's attention, like saying, hey, we're about to blow this planet up. Now, the only time that I have learned that these extraterrestrials can interfere with our 3D world and the human life is when we are headed for disaster. Now, there's many theories about parallel universes.
Yeah.
Saying that this has already existed before. This is already a timeline. Everything's already, so there's multiple realities of different things that could happen at different times. But what I'm getting is what is happening now. We had been here before. This is nothing new. This is a repetitive cycle. We have been here multiple times. We have reincarnated multiple times, and we keep getting the answer wrong. We keep doing it wrong. And when I say, what are the answers? I necessarily don't know the answers, but what I do know is the way our outlook on life is and what we should be striving for is completely wrong. And when I say these 3 waves of volunteers come in, so we had a first group that came in that basically I believed were somewhat enlightened, but they hated being here. They didn't understand. The world was so cruel. Everybody had differences. Everybody hated on everybody else. So it was torturous. So a lot of them ended up committing suicide. Now we have the second wave of volunteers coming in who are generators, who are transmuters, who can transfer energy to different people. And basically what they're doing is raising the collective consciousness. Now, the babies who are coming in as of right now are the 3rd generations who already have this DNA, who are already enlightened. I'm sure, in my eyes, I feel like that's why a lot of people now, especially in my generation, don't want to work, because there's a sense of knowing like, hey, we shouldn't be going to a 9-to-5 every day supporting these people who were this small percentage who was running this world collectively. They are profiting off the poor, and it's just a continuous cycle. And that's why everybody's stuck in this bubble. And how do we escape? How do we escape? And that's why I think the spiritual awakening is happening, because we have headed to such.
Now connected to iPhone.
Oh my God, that's my Alexa.
So
can you turn it off behind you? No, it's Alexa. If you could just turn that off behind you.
So I think we just have headed to a point where we are going to destruct society, and we are a couple moves away from doing the bad thing. But ever since a spiritual awakening, I think it has stopped it. And I don't really think that a lot of people understand that how powerful the collective consciousness is. If we all decided to get in touch with who we are and raise our vibrations, raise our frequencies, having positive thoughts through different affirmations, meditation, communicating with spirit guides, manifesting, doing these different things, it brings out a whole different you, and it puts your belief systems down, and you learn to let go.
And I think I did a TikTok yesterday talking about like one of the important reasons of prayer, right? And meditation and collective is that we are putting that back out there to the collective, and we're raising it.
And it's funny because a lot of people I have been getting on my TikTok is, you keep talking about these miracles, and when you think positive and your heart's connected and you have all these miracles, and when our heart and our mind is connected in a positive way, like you said, we attract what we put out. So you could be thinking positively, but if you have negativity in your heart, they don't connect. So you can only think that, you're just going to put out mixed behavior. Now, your heart, the power your heart gives off is more powerful than your mind.
Yeah.
It is proven. Dr. Joe Dispenza has proven it. The magnetic field that your heart can give off when it has pure of love, that connection is what draws experiences to you. So that's why I said if you have a positive mind and a positive heart, that's how you end up getting miracles. But that doesn't necessarily always mean it's going to happen. Gratitude, waking up, being thankful for the things that you do have, and not worrying about the things you don't have, because anything you don't have, you can get.
Anything.
It's just how you perceive. It's just how you perceive things. So it's definitely.
I want to know what your thoughts are on this song, because this is as I grow in my astrology, as I grow in my spirituality, wondering how you feel about this. I feel like we can manifest, create everything in the material realm that we want, right? Money, car, people, whatever, not necessarily people, but everything that we want. Somewhat people, but meaning now here's where people tied into the other stuff, right? There is a divine creator. There's something higher, greater than us that is really running the big show, right? That puts people into your life, that gets you those jobs, that makes you go down this, and this, right? Do you agree with that? So it's sort of like an intertwined, I'm going back and forth with like, how much of our life do we create and how much of it is divine destiny?
Yeah, I mean,
that is what I'm so stuck.
Exactly. There's so many questions that I have too. And like I said, what is the point of living if we know every single secret? Mm-hmm. I think the point of living is to learn, is to have this human experience. I mean, just to be here alone is a freaking blessing. And I have my own differences of what I think life is and whether it's a simulation or not. But
I love that one.
Yeah. When I begin to look at it, it starts to click in my head that life really is like a video game, because when I was coming from a state of fear, worry, like, a dependency, I was stuck. I felt like I was going nowhere. And now that I know everything that I know now, knowing that we create our own reality, how strong our mindset is, you are the main avatar. You are the main character in this video game, in this life. You can be whatever you want, but it won't work until I think we become aligned with our true self.
Yes.
Now there's a lot of things.
How do you align with your true self? How does Shane align?
See, now this is where I'm not, like I said, every experience is different. Every person is different. Now, to becoming aligning with yourself. Now, fortunately, I am blessed. Whatever I had happen to me, everything was easy. I was guided. It became second nature. It's like I already knew it. But what I'm learning to do is, in order to become aligned with who we truly are, it has to start in the mind, is what I'm starting to learn. And what I mean by the mind is thinking positively and letting go every single belief system we are taught. So when we are born, when a kid is first born, from the ages of 0 to 7, they are in a theta-like brainwave state. That means they are very googly-eyed. They don't really perceive things. They are downloading everything from the mom and dad. So when a kid falls and a mommy rushes over to that kid and that kid starts crying, the first thing the mom or dad's going to do is probably comfort that little, comfort that baby, comfort the child. Now that baby is going to perceive every time it falls that it's going to have a reaction to somebody coming towards it. So it's immediately going to depend on somebody else. So when that baby hits 7 years old, their subconscious mind already has a belief, already has a way of thinking, already has, a way of living life. The only way we can break through the subconscious mind is through habituation, through doing something over and over and over and over again. Now, for me, I started with conspiracy theories because...
What was the one that got you? Do you have like a conspiracy that was like, holy shit?
Alex, I forget his name. Alex Jones, I think his name is. Alex Jones. He was all over Joe Rogan. And there was a lot of things that he was saying throughout his whole life. And I believe he was a, what do you call it? A whisperer.
Like a medium?
No, like someone who knows everything about the government. Like
a whistleblower?
Whistleblower.
Yes.
Yeah,
yep.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Okay, so I believe he was some sort of whistleblower, and he predicted a lot of things that the government was doing to us. And out of the 50 things that he said, 49 of them came true. And
holy
the one
shit.
that he messed up on, he got completely drilled for and almost ruined his whole career because of one thing he got wrong.
Because of one he got wrong.
But I mean, you can obviously...
What was his biggest one that he got right?
The biggest... Oh, man. There is a whole bunch. I mean, if I'm telling you, there is a 4-hour episode on YouTube of Joe Rogan and Alex Jones. And I don't necessarily, if you watch it,
remind me to watch it after this.
You don't have to go into it believing everything, and that's not necessarily the point. The point is to get other people's opinions and maybe to open your mind up to, hey, there might be something going on here. Let's take a look into this. And then once you take a look into that one, it trembles on, and all of a sudden your mind wants to find the truth. So it opens like a sense of awareness, like, hey, we need to find the truth here. So for me, the conspiracy theories led my mind to open, and then I started to come across meditation, spiritual awakening, connecting with guides. And that's when I started to become truly aligned through, it was over and over practicing, not necessarily failing, but feeling like I did something wrong and not really improving. But it was a long time of changing the way I think, letting go, surrendering, and saying, hey, whatever happens. I am protected. I am guided. If I'm meant to be something, I will be something. If I'm meant to sit and suffer my whole life, that's what it'll be. But regardless, I'm going to be happy. So that's just kind of how I looked at things.
I think it's amazing how this all happened, and how you, and I was talking to your mother before this, like she said, how you just like fucking hit the ground running and like took off in your self-awareness, in your spirituality, in like, you know what, a lot of people, right, would go with what you went through and be right back out be out miserable, be out, not to say you don't have your hard times, but you're like, all right, like this happened. Now, how am I going to change the world?
Not having hard times. I don't have one hard time anymore. There's not, like I said, when I got the strength and this ability to like really feel like I can conquer anything. That is how I truly feel. And it doesn't even become an obsession thing. And, Joe Dispenza always talked about, they get these people under a certain meditation and they're able to have these mystical experiences where they can heal from cancer, lung cancer, so many HIV, so many different illnesses that people suffer from having these experiences. But it takes practice, it takes patience, and not everybody is supposed to awaken when they want to awaken.
Yeah. Or in this entire lifetime.
Exactly. So it could be 2 lifetimes from now. There could be 1,000 things you have to learn before you even begin to look at it. So it's just weird, because I was so blind for so long. And I always hear these songs about manifestation and people talking about it and the reality. And there's so many hints and signals that have been in front of me the whole time. I was just so blind and so into my ego and what I thought that I was never willing to open up to what could possibly be out there. Yeah. Which was one of the biggest things that I think took me a while to understand.
Do you know what I think? And when I watch your energy on TikTok, and something I pick up on you, right? As light workers, as energy workers, we have different jobs. And so with mine, right, I'm often told I'm the shadow worker. Like I see people the minute I see them for exactly who they are and I make them see themselves. And that freaks a lot of people out. I spend a lot of time alone. I just can't help it. I go right down to that and people get freaked out. I feel like with you too, you have the ability, but you also have this, and I watch on TikTok, you're a fire starter. Like I'm a shadow worker and you can get people you can inspire people. Like you can get that fire under them to like get up and want to like change or open their mind or do something like that.
Yeah, for me, it's a little different because I know that there's a whole there's a big trend, and I'm not against it because I love it, and I want people talking, and I want people informing other people and getting the fire going. But it's all it's all on their own experiences, which is not for everybody.
Yes.
So that's why I say like adventure off, just figure out what works for you and what fuels your fire. Because like I said, everything that I say and everything that I know or everything that I think I believe is not necessarily true. So it's just...
Well, I think too, what I liked about you, besides I wanted you to be on here because I think you're a very strong and you're just at the beginning. So I can't imagine what you're going to be like 5 years for a very strong masculine figure for a lot of males who aren't yet even open to even seeing the perception of what we are experiencing or what we choose to live every day. And I think you have the ability to open that up to a large, to the masculine energy, actually.
Yeah, it's weird because I'm going to be honest with you, I relate to more of the feminine side.
Yeah.
Yeah. The more I find out who I am, and I'm cool with that. But where was I going?
But that's why you can awaken the divine because
I'm not going to sit here and sugarcoat anything. I've had my fair shares of battles and lonely nights and depression and not really wanting to end it, but like, why am I here? And that I think is why I can gravitate to people, because I have an understanding of the dark side, the depression, the lonely, like just everything that people hate about themselves. I've been there. I've hated myself. I mean, I really did.
What was the hardest thing to learn to love about yourself? What'd you always hate the worst about yourself?
To accept the way things are.
Interesting.
To accept the way things are, because, we're born into this world with nothing, yet we expect everything.
Isn't that the truth?
So it's why are you expecting something when you came here with nothing? So the biggest thing that I am learning to do on this earth is just to be able to live and to wake up and be present and to be breathing and to have my family around me. That is what is most important. Yes, chasing your dreams, chasing your goals, that is all fun. But we can get so involved and so lost in creating a career for us that we forget everybody we had from day one that were always there, from family, friends. People change, you change. That's the thing that's the beauty of life. But never, ever forget where you came from, because those seeds would have never been planted if it was never for your parents at that given time. So,
isn't that the truth? That is so true.
So that's something that I live with to this day. Like,
what are your daily wellness habits?
Daily wellness habits. Okay. So for a while, when I first had my awakening, the first thing I would do, people would say, don't look at your phone for the first hour. I learned that from a woman by the name of Mel Robbins.
Yeah.
Now, I was addicted to that. So I do everything opposite. I go against everything that has been told to other people, and I learn ways that work for me. So instead of me waking up and not looking at my phone, I went on my phone, but it had to be a productive video that could benefit me to learning as soon as I got up.
I love that.
When we wake up, we are in a theta-like brainwave state. That's why things can be easily downloaded. You can learn things, remember things. That's why study is very easy at that point. We retain things a lot easier. So every morning I would watch an hour video of Dr. Joe Dispenza. It didn't necessarily even have to be an hour. It could have been a half hour, 40 minutes. But doing that every morning set my mind up of what I should be doing that day or what I should be focusing on. And then I would either get into a 10-minute meditation in the morning, and I do a 10-minute at night. The biggest thing that I am struggling with now is eating. My eating habits have changed dramatically. I can no longer eat meat, like, red meat, the old junk food chips and tasty cakes and all those things. I'm not necessarily.
Do you switch over to kombucha?
No, but I'm more into.
I love kombucha.
Of a plant-based diet, and I still eat chicken, I still eat fish, and I still have things that I slack on. But I realized as I'm changing, our body cannot hold this lower vibration frequency food that can really hurt you physically. I mean,
can we talk about that? Yeah. I talked about this in my very first episode number 1 about this. I'm like 80% vegan. Okay. I've been on and off. I'm the opposite. Occasionally I actually cheat with steak. I don't eat chicken. I don't eat fish and cheese. I love cheese. That's like the hardest thing for me to let go of. But I remember asking, and this has always been my theory. And one of the reasons I didn't start because of animals. Now it has become, that is a big part too, but I just got over it. Like the way they made things. But don't you think that we take on the energy of these animals that are being, now some are being raised humane for that, but like most of them are not, and we're taking on that energy of that.
Absolutely. That is a big factor. But as the more I really start to study the food, and I came across a guy, Dr. Sebi.
You're good with remember. Oh yeah. You're good with these names.
He's big on alkaline plant-based diet, and he has cured, I believe, and from my theories of what I've seen, he cured Magic Johnson illness with AIDS, and like he has cured a lot,
right?
With plant-based diets and these herbs that are mugwort to help you sleep. There's so many different turmeric. There's so many different herbs out there that can heal our body. But like you said, I noticed when I ate meat, I don't know. Still to this day, I'm still trying to figure out whether it was the vibrations that are coming from it or what it is. But that was so dense and so heavy on my stomach that I started to get chest pains and started to get physical aches, and I wouldn't eat. My body would go into detox for 2 or 3 days, and my mom would be like, "Shane, you got to eat. You got to eat." I'm like, "Mom, I'm not hungry." My body my body is not accepting food at this moment. So at this point, I'm starting to notice, like when I get up, I have to have either like a banana, and then like an hour later, I have to have like a smoothie or a type of juice that's made into food, whether it's like carrot or vegetables blended up or fruit, whatever it is. But that's what gets my appetite going for me to be able to consume other salads and rice or whatever it may be. But yes, food is the hardest thing that I am struggling with at this moment.
So do you feel like you're just not that hungry, or finding what it is to eat? I'm struggling a little with food too.
It's finding what gets me going. But I think what's happening to me personally, and just what I've been researching, when we eat something that's not good, and we're operating at a high vibration, it can pull your frequency down, making you feel like crap, making your body go into fasting. It wants to get rid of everything that is not good for us. So that's why we don't eat. We don't really do any of that. But if we can get on a diet that is healthy, consuming, that fuels our soul, that fuels our energy, that gets us going, an appetite will start to be created, is what I'm starting to notice. Like, I have to force myself to eat a banana the first thing I wake up. And half hour later, that nutrient, whatever it is, gets me going. But if I eat something that is
heavy,
like if I eat bacon or something greasy, like I can't do it.
Yeah.
I'll eat the rest of the day.
Well, it's funny now. You have me thinking. So I had in 2019, I had a really massive, crazy, probably the biggest since getting clean 10 years ago, spiritual awakening I ever had. Yes. And I'm thinking that's really when I my diet started changing, and it started with what you're saying. I just wasn't hungry. And it's almost like as I came out of the spiritual awakening, it was like I sort of lost that attachment that we hold to food. And I think like I started to now eat how we're supposed to eat, right? To just nourish our bodies, not eat with all the other ways, not eat, all the other ways we've learned to eat and put so much attachment to food. Now it's sort of like I'm just eating the primal things I need. I don't need that.
Just to get going. That's really what it is. When I went into the hospital, I was 170 pounds. I came out 140.
Damn.
I gained some weight. I was back up to 158. And then I had this awakening and I went back down to 145. And now I'm sitting there struggling to put on more weight. But like I said,
It will come.
yeah, if we just have to be doing the right things to make our,
Now, 3 months in the hospital. Can we go back to that? Even though we've gone so far, like, were you depressed? Was that your lowest while you were in the hospital? And then things, or when? Okay, so when in the hospital did you like? Okay, I'm gonna turn my life around now. Like, or how was it? Moments, or was it like, oh my God, I'm just gonna die this way?
It wasn't. I was shocked. I'm like, this can't be me. This is really my life.
Wow.
I was still in a state. I was in a state of denial. This didn't happen to me.
No. Sitting in the hospital bed, you're like, no.
Yeah, like. I had these little injuries. I'll be back to it. When I got out and I couldn't move and I couldn't do the things that I used to do is when it hit me like, wow, my reality, my everything that I thought is coming down crashing. And I remember this one specific nurse said to me, this is not the hardest part. Sitting in the hospital is not the hardest part. When you get out, it's going to be your biggest struggle. I'm looking at her like, I'm getting out of the hospital. Like, there's no way. I'm going to be cool. No, that was the biggest struggle.
Wow. When you got out, just like all of a sudden, here's the real world, right?
Yeah,
like,
just, I mean, when they say that you're not really, you have a 5% chance of living. And I'm asking my parents, hey, are we going to pull the cord? Is he go on life support? What do we do here? There's a lot of, I forget where I was going with this. But
that always happens to me.
Yeah, it
almost was like the world you entered, right? You didn't enter. You were brought into that hospital thinking the world was one thing. And then you left, all of a sudden the world was a whole different place to you.
Exactly. It was, I guess it was more because I was being catered. I was being careful.
Yeah.
I was dependent on somebody else caring for me. And then of course I transitioned to the real world. And as the days and months go on, I hear people are like, hey, you got to start thinking about a job and you got to start thinking about moving forward with your life. And I'm like, yo, I am depressed as
shit.
Anything over here.
Yeah.
I can't even think about a job.
But, and that was right when you got out?
That was, that was probably a few months after I got out.
Oh, wow.
I started to think that way. But,
What brought you just get brought back in, right? You bring yourself back in.
Yeah. But the one thing that I actually give myself credit for is no matter how bad things ever seemed in my life, there has never been a point where I felt like, okay, I'm just going to give up.
That's huge.
Like it was, maybe my actions didn't show it, but my mind said otherwise.
Yeah.
Like there was something was going to happen and I was going to make it happen. And sure enough, something did.
And now you have this moment for the rest of your life, right? Because life is a series of good and bad times. And so every time your next really hard time, spiritual awakening, you have this time to see like, holy shit, look what happened. Look what I came from. Look how much I grew.
Yeah. I can always self-reflect. 6 months ago, I was crying. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know anything. And then it's just crazy because 6 months.
And how old are you? We didn't say that.
I'm 24. So,
that's intense to have happen at 24 years old. Yeah. And you were 23 at the time that happened, right?
I was 23 at the time, actually. Yes. This happened.
It's funny. I got clean at 23 and a half.
Yeah. September of 2020 is when it happened. And my birthday was October. So it was a month after. Yeah. But like I said, it changed my life and it gave me better perspective on life. So
where do you see yourself now? Where do you see your future? What are your goals, dreams?
I have a lot of goals. I have a lot of ambitions, a lot of things that I want to conquer. And I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to say everything because there's certain promises and secrets.
Absolutely.
I have, and until they're accomplished, I'll be able to say, I always knew I was going to do that. But I want to help people. I want to reach out and, get perspectives or get people's perspectives, or get people's opinions thinking a little differently and, to say there is a different way of living life. And it's not, you don't always necessarily have to be a spiritual person. You don't always have to believe in a certain higher power, even though that is good. And that's how I live my life. Some of us are not all connected that way yet. So that's why I say, if we're not connected in a spiritual way, just changing the way you think, changing the body chemistry on how you perceive things and how you behave can make a huge difference in a person's life. And that's the spiritual trend is becoming such a big thing. I feel like people get so tunnel vision on,
I know.
I need to be spiritual. I need to be spiritual. It's the only way to happiness. Oh, blah, blah, blah. No, you got to change this little guy up here.
Yeah.
As soon as you change that, that's when endless opportunities are presented to you.
Endless, but it's working. It's a workout. And I always tell people you need to work out your mind as much as you work out your body and everything else. It's
absolutely.
A daily years of just repeat of doing the same thing over repetitive.
Yeah. And
that's how you change it.
I hate being out. I hate talk. I mean, I don't hate talking to people. I just don't like, I don't like a big crowd of different energies because I'm very introverted. I fuel off myself. I get all my energy from deep inside. So I love,
and you can pick up, so you don't want to be like,
yeah. So me working on like my mentality was never a struggle because I loved being by myself. That's why I felt whole. That's why I had all my power. Nothing could stop me. So yeah, building a mindset is,
dude, that's damn Alexa.
Building a positive, disciplined mindset. And when I say discipline, it's something as small as brushing your teeth one extra time a day will get a different circuit going in your head to do something else. I brushed my teeth 2 times a day. I just said, hey, I'm going to add one more 12 o'clock teeth brushing session.
My teeth could use that.
Just so I can become a little bit more disciplined to get me thinking a little bit more intuitively. I don't know if that's the right word, but I started to do that. And then I was like, I got a month. I'm like, I'm brushing my teeth 3 times a day. What else can I add in here? I'm going to just start meditating for a minute a day. And that minute came to 2, then 2 came to 3, 4 came to, and then it just kept going. And the next thing you know, I'm starting to write journals. I'm starting to write things about the brain. I'm getting lost and
that's beautiful.
Yeah. It's just, it's.
Do you, oh my God, to unplug that thing. Do you know, Bob Proctor?
I've heard of his name.
So you have. He changed my life 6 years ago, actually, with the law. He's like the grandfather of not just law of attractions, but like the 12 universal laws and putting all that there. And he one of the things I did, a big thing is training, right? Not, let's say you have a goal, right? Let's say the Hair Healer podcast is the #1 show, or like something simple, like I am aligned with my path that you want, and writing it over and over again. That's repetitive. I used to do it 50 times a day, but also writing with your left hand or your opposite if you're right-handed, and actually physically writing out what you want with the opposite hand and making a habit of that, like for a month. Yeah. Oh, wow. And really like, that's a cool one. And really training yourself with the opposite, especially he says, if you can learn, right, you can figure out anything. If you can figure out how to do it with your left hand or whatever hand you are, I'm right-handed. So check him out. He's changed my life with things.
Bob Proctor?
Bob Proctor. I mean, he is the reason he changed my life and understanding how it works as far as like attracting things in the material realm. Okay. And if you like Joe, like I like kind of old men who like teach me these things, you know what I mean? You'll probably like Bob Proctor.
Yeah, it's weird. I didn't even search for Joe. I didn't search for any of these people. They just came.
You were meant to. And Dr. Joe is the one with the with
neuroscientist.
Yeah, who had the meningitis, right?
No, he actually.
Which one had the meningitis?
He ended up getting into a bicycle accident, I believe, or a car accident where he broke something in his spine or his vertebrae were all messed up, and the doctor said, we need to perform this surgery. It's your only way that you're going to be able to walk again. And I guess he had this experience, and it told him you can heal yourself through the power of thought alone.
Yeah.
So he said, I'm going to take this time. If I can heal myself and I can walk, I'm going to go to school to become a neuroscientist or a brain doctor. I forget what it is. And he was able to successfully walk again. Like I said, he had this experience, and he had a similar experience as I did, and it completely shaped his future into who he is now. And everything that he has taught people, I have learned from.
You have learned from.
So there's like a deeper connection because the experience he had was so similar to me. I think that's why he was connected towards me.
Yeah.
That's why I connected to him. Because as soon as I saw him, I mean, my head was focused on everything he said for months. This isn't something that I did one day and it clicked. Like, yes, I had this spiritual awakening, but it was repetition of just videos, motivation, positive affirmations, meditation, like strengthening that mindset so I can attack my inner demons.
So you can attack and know how to roll that.
Yeah.
Remind me at the end of this, when we're done with this, to tell you too long now, and I can't remember the doctor, but there's another great one. That's who I thought it was. I forgot. Years ago, I came across his story of a very similar surgeon who didn't believe in anything and then got meningitis where he should be dead. And begins with an E, I feel like. Like
Tolle?
No.
Or
Eckhart Tolle. No, it's
he had a similar experience as me, but
pain body. He always says that. It will come. It will come.
Yeah.
That's a good story. Well, we're getting now to the end of our episode, okay? So at the end, I like to ask a few questions. And it's funny, we didn't talk too much about your childhood as much, but sometimes we do get into that. So one of the first questions is I often ask if you could go back to a time in your life when you were a kid, one of your hardest times, right? Or when you see yourself, like what would you say to yourself? What would you say? What would that person need at that time?
Oh, man.
I know.
It's funny because I was doing this inner child work today where I saw this video and it said, you need to start working on your, focusing on the child you once were. And the way we can connect with that is just start asking yourself questions as if you were really in front of them. And I start to get really emotional and very teary-eyed because I don't know what I would say right now other than you have no idea what is on the other side. Like, that is probably the biggest thing that I would tell myself. You have no idea what is on the other side for you. And, there's a lot of different experiences. There's a lot of different paths and a lot of different ways we can go in our life. But this was my path for a reason. And now that I come to terms that this really was for me, I would look at myself now and say, dude, you have no idea what is on the other side. Just keep your head down and keep smiling.
Wow.
That is exactly what I would tell myself.
I'm getting chills because as you're talking, I want to say to you again, you have no idea what's on the other side from this. Like you are just, again, to have this knowledge, this drive, and even a lot of people cannot conquer their mind in a lot of ways. Like you're going to go way up. And you're going to help lots of people. You really, really are.
That's my goal. Because the greatest gift you can give is helping the next person. There isn't an insane amount of money you could give me. I mean,
and that's the greatest way to get out of your ego too, right? Get out of yourself, help someone.
The chills and the warming feeling and just knowing that you can empower somebody else just by what you say and how you carry yourself. There is no greater feeling. That's why to this day, every single piece of advice that I give from my life will be free. That is it.
I love that.
You can't buy happiness with money. And that's why I feel like every bit of knowledge that I have will forever be free if it can really help somebody.
That's huge.
And we'll see where it goes from there.
And see where it goes. Yeah. It's going big places. Okay, my next question is, what piece of advice is the best piece of advice? Like, not the best, but fucking up my question, hon. Let me zen again. What is the best piece of advice that someone's ever given you? What comes to your head?
The best piece of advice. Don't believe everything you are told.
This is not the truth.
And it sounds so cliche and so...
No, that's a good one.
Don't believe everything you are told. If you want to find the truth, find your own truth. That is the only way. There's so many different perspectives on life, so many different theories, so many different realities. Find your truth. That is it.
Find your truth.
Find your truth. Don't believe in everything we were told.
And that will lead to freedom.
Yeah.
Right? Big freedom.
Get a whole bunch of weight off your shoulders.
Now, what is the last piece of advice that you want to leave for our listening audience right now?
The last piece of advice. Wow. There's a lot of things that we are going to face in our life. We're never going to be happy. There's a lot of things that we're going to face in our life that it's not always going to make us happy. But every time a door closes for us, a new door will open. And I promise you that the key to all of the negativity and the suffering we go through is to figure out what we can learn from that experience so we can move forward so that doesn't happen again. It's all about breaking the cycle of the same repetitive behavior. And as soon as we can break out of that little tick, that little niche we got on a continuous basis, we start to become who we truly are. So that's what I would say. Yeah.
Damn. That's deep. I already feel like I got to re-listen to that to like sink in all those words. That was wow. That's what I love to ask these questions, because people always open up my mind to like.
Yeah, that's why it's so cool. Everybody's opinion, everyone's perspective is so different. That's why you never take anything personal. Ever.
Well, I even think this right now, like the whole Corona, COVID, everything happening, like it's been so fascinating to see how we're all experiencing something and we all have such vastly different opinions as to what is happening, but we're all perceiving this one same thing essentially, right?
Yeah.
And that it's the truth taken into everyone in conversation, right? You'll walk away perceiving this as, probably somewhat different.
I learn everything I do, I learn from. So it's the beauty of it. Absolutely.
It's the beauty of it in life. Wow. This has been such an amazing
I appreciate
episode.
you having me on.
Thank you. Where can people find you at? Where's your TikTok? His TikTok is amazing and blowing up.
So it is Shane Springer, SHANE, SPRINGER. There's 2 R's at the end. So yeah, check me out.
But there's not normally 2 R's at the end, right?
No.
Okay.
No. I had to do it because TikTok.
There's another Shane Springer.
Another Shane Springer.
How dare they? And I'm telling you, you want to check out his TikTok, because what you heard him say, he says in 10 1-minute intervals throughout the day, and it's amazing. And it always, when I listen to it, I'm like, oh, it somehow seems to be something I needed to hear at that moment. It really does. So it's been cool to watch you go from this to hit your rock bottom to see you now, and I'm excited to see where you go from here.
We'll be in touch. Are you kidding me? I'll see you on the other side.
On the other side, baby. Absolutely. Yeah. And you're coming back on.
Yeah.
It'll be good. So everyone, thank you again for listening, for tuning in. I'm going to remind you, please subscribe, rate, review, send this to someone. That's the best way. People always ask how they can help out the show. Please, that is the number one way you can help out the show. Send it to someone. Follow me on Facebook, The Hair Healer Podcast. Please follow me on Instagram at The Hair Healer 1111. If you want to reach out, if you want to be on the show, any questions, suggestions, please email me, thehairhealerpodcast@yahoo.com. Thank you everyone for listening. Love you and have a good week.